Esau, the incredible biblical journey of rejection, redemption, and divine purpose revealed. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, the Lord spoke to the house of Israel through his prophets, while Rebekah, the wife of Isaac, endured a tumultuous pregnancy. Within her womb a fierce struggle raged as 2 children wrestled for dominance. Unsure of her fate, she sought the Lord in fervent prayer as the weight of expectation bore down upon her. Hearing her cries, the Lord revealed profound truth. 2 nations are in your womb, and the older shall serve the younger. This divine proclamation settled upon her heart, a seed of destiny planted amid the tempest of birth. Esau emerged first, a child unlike others, red and hairy, his very being an echo of the rugged earth. A hunter born to thrive under the vast skies, he wielded his bow with the artistry of a master craftsman. His strong form spoke of the wilderness, the raw, untamed essence of nature itself. In stark contrast, Jacob followed, smooth and gentle, embodying the quiet of the tents. Each brother's likeness reflected paths unfurling before them, Esau into the wild and Jacob toward the domestic. As days turned to years, the fabric of brotherly rivalry intertwined. One fateful day the air of the land thickened with the rich aroma of stew, Jacob's culinary delight simmering over the hearth. Exhausted and ravenous from a long hunt, Esau stumbled in, driven by primal need. With desperation in his eyes, he turned to Jacob, offering his birthright for a mere morsel. The exchange seemed trivial, yet within that moment, the echoes of history began to reverberate. The hunger for sustenance overshadowed the hunger for divine inheritance, a choice that would shape their identities for ages. With time, shadows cast their somber tones over Esau's heart as the cunning of Rebekah guided Jacob's deceit. In a birthright concealed behind a veil of frailty, Jacob stole Isaac's blessing meant for his firstborn brother. In that fateful moment, Esau felt the sting of betrayal cut to his very spirit. Pain and anger ignited his resolve. He vowed vengeance against the brother who had cast him aside. Yet amid his anguish lay a more profound truth, a divine narrative unfolding, propelling them both toward unseen destinies. As years passed in silence and distance, Esau, weary from a treacherous journey, pondered reunion with Jacob. The weight of anger tugged at him, even as hope flickered dimly within. On the horizon, he spotted the familiar figure, the brother who had wronged him. As heartbeats quickened in anticipation, uncertainty plagued Esau's thoughts. Yet, when their eyes finally locked, a miracle unfolded. Love, buried beneath layers of pain, surged forth, unbidden. He embraced Jacob, tears rolling free, an outward sign of forgiveness and renewal, a sweet balm on the wounds of the past. But unresolved tensions lingered between their lives, whispers of choices and destinies intertwining. The question remained, how would their individual paths shape the future? Esau, once forsaken, stood ready to embrace his destiny as the father of the Edomites. What does it mean to accept the journey woven through hardship and reconciliation? As Esau ventured forth into unknown trials, readers are left to ponder the enduring faithfulness of God's plan and the lessons derived from the deepest strife. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next, as the path of Esau and Jacob spirals into a continuing saga of redemption and purpose. And it came to pass in the days after the embrace that Esau, now reconciled with Jacob, turned his heart toward the land of Seir, which was vast and rugged. The mountains called to him, resonating with the spirit of the hunter. There he could forge his own path, far from the memories of his brother's betrayal and their tumultuous past. Esau journeyed into the wilderness, each step upon the rocky terrain echoing with a mixture of nostalgia and hope. He carried with him a band of men that followed like shadows, steadfast in their loyalty and shared lineage. As he wandered, he pondered the promise spoken by the Lord to Rebekah, that he would be the father of a great nation. "Surely I shall dwell in peace and build a legacy," he reasoned, heart heavy yet determined. In the solitude of the mountains, Esau encountered the wild creatures that roamed the valleys. Among them were deer and the sharp-eyed eagle, each a reminder of the fierce heart within him. He spoke unto them as though they understood, placing his hands upon the earth, feeling the pulse of creation beneath him. In those quiet moments, he felt the whisper of God's presence, beckoning him to rise, to overcome the scars of his past, and to embrace the future laden with potential. Meanwhile, Jacob remained settled in the land of Canaan, surrounded by his family, and the tent pitched as if in defiance to the world around him. Yet the act of reconciliation had stirred something deeper within him, a longing for more than mere survival, a divine stirring for the continuation of the covenant made with Abraham. With each meal shared with his sons, he spoke of the God of his father Isaac, and the promises extended through generations. The richness of their ancestral heritage weighed heavily on Jacob's heart. As time drew on, the families of Esau and Jacob began to flourish. Esau took to himself wives from the daughters of Canaan, their joy filling his camp as children were born. His household grew as a great tree spreading its branches, while Jacob's lineage multiplied as well. Every birth was a reminder of the unfolding promise, yet the brothers remained distant, each navigating their separate destinies. It was in a year of drought that God's hand moved once more among them. Famine struck the land, and the breath of desperation began to consume households. Jacob, feeling the crunch of need, prepared to send his sons to Egypt in search of grain, unbeknownst to him that the very brother whom he had wronged had taken root in the blessing of survival. For Esau had not only thrived, he had become a formidable force in the wilderness, establishing himself as a leader among the Edomites. And lo, while Jacob's sons knelt before the ruler of Egypt seeking grain, the presence of the Lord was heavy over their request. The heart of reunion lingered on the winds of fate, for unbeknownst to them, their paths would cross once more. The echoes of the past fueled the fire of divine purpose, intertwining destinies that would shape the fate of nations. As the brothers bore the weight of their choices and the hazards of their journeys, a truth loomed on the horizon. God was weaving a tapestry far grander than they could foresee. Could it be that the trials preceding them were not mere burdens, but stepping stones toward a greater revelation of God's faithfulness? In this moment of uncertainty, Esau looked toward the distant mountains, and with a heart filled with longing, he felt the pull of destiny calling him to embrace the unfolding plan. What would become of the bond between brothers, scarred by betrayal, yet nourished by forgiveness? Only time would reveal the depth of God's providence, drawing them into a narrative far beyond their understanding. And it came to pass, in the midst of famine's grip, that Jacob's sons, laden with the weight of their hunger, journeyed unto Egypt, where hope flickered like a candle in darkness. They knew not that the providence of God had orchestrated their steps toward the very brother whom they had once shunned. As they approached the great city, their hearts were heavy, burdened by the memory of their father's words and the fear of the ruler's might. And behold, as they entered the courts of the Pharaoh's house, their eyes beheld not just a man clothed in authority, but their brother Esau's twin, Joseph, now adorned with garments of power. His countenance was as the dawn breaking over the hills, yet deception hung upon his lips, and he spoke with the wisdom gifted unto him from above. "Why have you come?" he inquired, his voice steady as the flowing Nile. "Are you not but spies, come to seek the weakness of this land?" Their hearts trembled at his words, and they responded with trembling voices, "Nay, my lord, we are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. One is no more, and the youngest remains with our father." It was then that the truth pierced Joseph's heart, and unbidden tears fell as a river from his eyes, for he knew their treachery, their betrayal, yet in his spirit stirred the assurance of God's unending grace. Meanwhile, far from this unfolding drama, Esau, who had ventured deep into the land of Seir, felt a stirring within his soul, as if the mountains themselves conspired to speak. "What news carries upon the winds?" he pondered. Esau sought God earnestly, and in solitude he poured out his heart, asking for strength and wisdom to lead his kin. "O Lord," he cried, "if it be thy will, let my eyes see the reunion of our blood, and let the wounds of the past be healed." As the days progressed, Joseph laid a plan concealing his identity, yet working upon their hearts to draw them closer. He sought to understand the transformation wrought by time and trial. With each grain he offered, a thread was drawn tighter, binding the brothers not just by blood, but by shared suffering and a yearning for redemption. In the land of Canaan, Jacob sensed the stirring of fate. His heart became restless. "My sons have returned from Egypt with words filled with uncertainty," he lamented, "and this famine has brought us low. Yet, must we return? Will we trust in the lordship of God, or allow fear to reign?" He gathered his sons and spoke, "We must heed the command of the one who offers grain, that we may live and not die." Thus, with heavy hearts, fueled by the desire to survive, Jacob sent his sons back to Egypt with double the payment, and their youngest brother Benjamin, at the behest and dread of his love for Rachel. Little did they know, the eyes of God were upon them, directing their steps toward reconciliation, toward the realization of an oath made long ago that yet awaited fulfillment. And as the brothers approached once more, a holy tension enveloped them. An echo of the past met the promise of tomorrow. What would come of this journey? Could a heart, once hardened by betrayal, soften in the face of redemption? The divine tapestry was in the weaver's hands, and its colors were brightening with the hues of grace. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting shadows over the sands of time, a profound question hung in the air. How would God's sovereign plan unfold amidst the frailties of man? For even now, whispers of destiny were stirring, shaping lives and binding wounds, as the ultimate revelation drew near. And it came to pass, as the brothers returned to Egypt, their hearts diverged in conflicting emotions. For in their souls lay the weight of what they had done, and dread for what awaited them swelled within. They stood before Joseph, their formidable brother, unaware of the love behind the veil of authority, yet mingled with the fear of his previous accusations. Joseph, perceiving their anxiety, commanded them to bring forth their youngest brother, Benjamin. "By this," he declared, "shall I know you are not spies, but men of sincerity." The brothers exchanged glances, for the memories flooded over them of their deception, of the blood-stained dreams that had driven them apart. Amongst them Reuben spoke, "We are indeed guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us." Joseph's heart resonated within him. He turned away from them, concealing his emotions, as the heaviness of the past pressed upon him like a mist. He could not bear to reveal himself, yet in his spirit deep hope blossomed. Could this be the turning of their hearts? As they feasted together, a table set with bounty, Joseph filled their sacks with food, yet he concealed his silver cup within Benjamin's pouch, unbeknownst to them. After their departure, he dispatched his steward to pursue the brothers, and they were filled with terror at the steward's words, accusing them of theft. "With whomsoever of your servants it be found," the steward proclaimed, "let him die, and we also will be my lord's bondmen." They protested vehemently, swearing their innocence, and thus they were brought back before Joseph. "What is this that you have done?" he exclaimed, all the while knowing the truth shrouded within. Upon searching, the cup was found in Benjamin's sack, and chaos erupted as the brothers fell before him, their loyalty to the youngest entwined with the fear of losing him. Judah stepped forth amidst their despair, his voice rising from the depths of his soul. "O my Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh." Judah, pleading, recounted how their father would die if Benjamin did not return, revealing the frailty of family ties forged through pain and forgiveness. Joseph could contain himself no longer. He ordered every man out and wept aloud, so that the Egyptians heard it and the house of Pharaoh also heard. "I am Joseph," he declared amidst tears that flowed as torrents. "Doth my father yet live?" His brothers stood in shock, unable to grasp the words that cascaded like rain from the heavens, for the brother they had wronged now stood before them in power. As profound silence enveloped them, Joseph continued, "Be not grieved nor angry with yourselves, for God did send me before you to preserve life. With this revelation, the grand tapestry of God's design unfolded. What they intended for evil, God had intended for good, to save many lives. In that moment, the weight of their past began to lift, and forgiveness swirled like a fragrant incense. For Joseph saw in their brokenness a seed of repentance that the Lord had cultivated through sorrow. He called for them to bring their father, and as Benjamin embraced him, joy intermingled with tears, a reunion where love broke the chains of sin. Thus it was revealed that God's sovereign plan was at work, orchestrating storms of adversity for the dawn of reconciliation. For in their hearts the brothers began to understand that mercy lay entwined with redemption, as the invitation to divine purpose awaited their acceptance. And as they journeyed toward Canaan with hope restored, the questions echoed through their souls. What further wonders would God reveal? What legacy would unfold from this family, destined to bear fruit for generations? As they drew closer to their father's embrace, the answer awaited its time, for God's ways are not man's ways, and his plan stretches far beyond the horizon. And it came to pass, when Joseph's brothers returned to Egypt with their father Jacob, their hearts rejoiced with newfound hope, for the veil of bitterness had begun to lift. Jacob, upon hearing the news that Joseph yet lived, declared with a heart full of disbelief, "It is enough. Joseph my son is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die." At this, the family prepared their cart, filled with the finest treasures of Canaan, to take before Joseph, their gifts meant to honor him who held power over the land. As they approached the great city of Egypt, the sun cast long shadows across the land, and the vibrant colors of their weaving garments caught the eye of those who witnessed their entrance. In the palace, Joseph awaited their arrival, the longing in his heart palpable as he remembered their childhood laughter, their shared dreams, and the cruel fate that had separated them. Upon entering, they fell prostrate before him, and Joseph's heart stirred within him. He cried, "Draw near to me, I pray you." And as they rose and stood before him, Joseph beheld Benjamin, the brother of his mother, and his spirit soared with emotion unspeakable. He embraced Benjamin and wept, for he saw in him the hope of a family restored. "Is your father well, the old man of whom ye spake? Is he yet alive?" he questioned fervently. They replied, "Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive." At this proclamation Joseph could not contain his joy. He turned away and wept, for the tears of reconciliation mingled with the goodness he had found in the Lord. Joseph instructed that they should bring their father, and furthermore commanded his servants to prepare the best of the land for their sojourn, saying, "I will provide for you, for there are yet 5 years of famine." In this, God's provision began to unfold, a divine sustenance that would bear witness to his faithfulness to both Joseph and his family. As they made way back to Canaan, Jacob, who had experienced a lifetime of sorrow, found his heart quickening with joy, for the promise of seeing his son again revived his spirit. He gathered his household and declared, "Let us go. Surely I will see the face of Joseph before I die." His sons encouraged him, saying, "We will go with you, father, for all has been made right." In the night, as they journeyed, God spoke unto Jacob in a vision, saying, "Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will make of thee a great nation there." Jacob awoke and praised the Lord, for he sensed that God was weaving his plan through their journey, and the threads of destiny began to connect. When they arrived in Egypt, Joseph prepared his chariot and rushed to meet his father, and great was the reunion. Their embrace was filled with years of anguish and love, tears streaming down their faces, as Joseph whispered, "I am your son, whom you thought lost, and I am here to bring you home." As they settled in the land of Goshen, it was clear that God had brought them forth into this season, not merely to survive, but to flourish. What man had meant for harm, the Lord transformed into everlasting good. Yet even amidst their joy, a divine question lingered, a mystery yet to be revealed. Would Israel's journey end in fulfillment, or would it lead to trials beyond their imagining? And thus, God's sovereign plan continued to unfold, leading them toward an Egypt that would know both their greatness and their suffering. For amidst every joy, danger loomed, and the paths of faith were yet to be fully revealed, as God whispered to the hearts of his chosen from eternity past, And it came to pass that Jacob and his sons settled in the land of Goshen, their hearts swelling with gratitude for the abundance that Joseph had provided. They were humbled by the favor bestowed upon them, yet the shadow of a deeper truth loomed over their newfound security. For as they flourished, the Spirit of the Lord stirred within Joseph, filling him with wisdom and insight concerning the days to come. At the appointed time Joseph summoned his brothers to him, saying, "Gather round, for the Lord has revealed to me the path we must now take." They approached with a mixture of reverence and trepidation, sensing the weight of his words. "I am your brother, whom you cast into the pit," he began, "but God has turned my mourning into joy. Now we must prepare, for the days of famine are not yet over, and grave trials are foretold." "And what shall we do?" they implored, their eyes watching his every move with anxious expectation. Joseph spoke, "Store grain and prepare the land, for the murmurs of a coming hardship fill the air. The Lord has revealed to me a sobering truth. Your descendants will multiply greatly, but trials shall precede their exodus from this land." In this moment of revelation, the brothers exchanged glances filled with unspoken fears, for they remembered the prophecy given unto their forefather Abraham, saying, "Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs." Genesis 15:13. Indeed, the threads of destiny were being woven, yet Joseph's heart was resolute in the faithfulness of God. Days turned into weeks, and famine spread across the land, swallowing up the sustenance of nations. Word reached the surrounding peoples that Egypt had grain in abundance, for Joseph had not only prepared for his family, but for all who would seek refuge. The people came in droves, desperate and weary, seeking the provision that flowed from the hand of God through Joseph. As the merchants and families clamored for help, the brothers beheld a larger work than their own. They traded their silver for bread, and through this exchange they began to understand the depth of their brother's grace. There, among the throng of needy souls, was hidden the redemptive purpose of God, drawing forth the family from the shadows of their past. But lo, the plight of the people awakened Joseph's spirit, for he perceived a greater calamity on the horizon, one that would lead to Israel's eventual deliverance, yet burden his heart deeply. "Seek out the strangers among us," he commanded, "for those who suffer carry my grace. Together we shall stand as vessels of hope amidst darkness." Thus, under Joseph's leadership, the family grew in strength, a beacon of light in the land of bondage. Yet the trials were mere foreshadowings of that which lay ahead. As they worked, murmurs of discord began to rise among the Egyptians, who noticed the favor that was upon Joseph's family. Jealousy swelled in the hearts of many, for what was once their solace began to resemble an unrest. Jacob, ever vigilant, sought counsel from the Lord, and God spoke unto him in the secret places of the night, reminding him of the covenant made with his forefathers. "I shall bless those who bless you," said the Lord, "and your seed shall stretch from east to west." As the family braced for the unseen trials that lay ahead, an unyielding truth filled their hearts. God was weaving his plans for a greater redemption, one that would not only refine their faith, but send them forth into a new veil of glory. Yet questions lingered in the shadows of their minds. What awaiting trials would forge their destinies, and what great plans were harbored in the heart of God even now? For amidst the laughter lay a silent anticipation, one that would reveal the depths of his sovereign grace in ways they had yet to understand. And it came to pass that as the hunger spread across the lands, the eyes of many turned toward Egypt, where Joseph had become a mighty man. His wisdom and foresight, gifts of the Almighty, made him the very instrument through which lives were saved. The cries of the people echoed in the hearts of the servants of Pharaoh, and they came forth pleading for sustenance. In the midst of these trials, Jacob felt a great unease within him, and he called unto his sons, saying, "Why do you look at one another? Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither, and buy for us that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers journeyed southward to Egypt, leaving Benjamin the youngest with their father, for Jacob feared that harm might befall him in these days of desperation. Arriving in Egypt, the brothers stood before Joseph, not knowing he was their kin. He recognized them immediately, but he concealed his identity, testing their hearts. "You are spies," he accused them harshly, observing their faces pale with fear. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. Nay, my lord, they protested, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons, we are true men, thy servants are no spies. Yet Joseph pressed them further, for he knew their hearts still bore the weight of their past sin against him. I shall prove you, he declared, by the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go hence unless your youngest brother comes hither. The brothers were seized with fear and confusion, murmuring about their guilt and what had befallen Joseph, for the judgment of their actions now seemed upon them. In their distress Reuben spoke, Did I not say unto you, Do not sin against the child? And you would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. Their brothers' words haunted them, echoing the darkness of their deeds. Joseph turned away, and as he did his heart burned with anguish. He wept, for the weight of forgiveness clung to him like a mantle. He resolved to release their imprisonment in Egypt, albeit with a heavy heart, to reveal the transformation that the Lord had wrought within him. Days passed, and when food was grown scant, Jacob urged his sons once more, saying, Go again, buy us a little food. They protested, having to recount the dire condition they found themselves in, how the ruler had demanded that they bring Benjamin. But Jacob's love for his son shone brightly. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved, he cried, surrendering to the divine necessity unfolding before them. As they descended once again into Egypt, Joseph beheld his brother Benjamin, and could hardly contain the tears of joy and sorrow that mingled in his heart. He prepared a feast for them, though he hid his grace behind the guise of a host. You shall eat, and again you shall find favor with me, he declared, imparting blessings upon their tables. Yet the sovereign hand of God was at work, for within this feast, hidden among the fabrics of their laughter and brokenness, lay a greater revelation. Joseph commanded his steward, Fill the men's sacks with food, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth, and give them provisions for the way. As they departed with full sacks and heavy hearts, they were yet unaware of the great trials God was weaving in the fabric of their lives. The path toward their redemption was fraught with tension, yet divine purpose shone brilliant in the darkness. And thus in the quiet of night, as they made their way back to their father, the Spirit of God began to stir powerfully once more, whispering of a deliverance greater than they could imagine, one that would bear witness to the fulfillment of promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What deeper designs lay in wait beyond the horizon of their trials, only the Lord knew. And it came to pass that as the brothers journeyed back to the land of Canaan, an air of heaviness settled upon their hearts. They felt the weight of their burdens, the echoes of their past sins, reverberating through the very fabric of their beings. As they paused to rest, one among them opened the mouth of his bag, and behold, their money was found within, causing their hearts to tremble greatly. What is this that God hath done unto us? Cried one of the brothers, for fear gripped their souls. They reasoned amongst themselves, fearful that calamity awaited them for their misdeeds. Reuben, recalling their earlier transgressions, spoke forth with conviction. Did I not warn you? Our actions have come back to haunt us, and now we must face the wrath of the ruler of Egypt. Yet as they neared their father Jacob, each man weighed the import of what had befallen them. The golden grains that filled their sacks offered a promise of life, but the mystery of their money stirred a bitter tension. When they finally reached home, they recounted all that had transpired, telling their father of the stern ruler whose heart they believed to be harsh as stone. The man spoke with authority, demanding to see our younger brother Benjamin, lest we be accused of deceit, they implored, their voices trembling with dread. As Jacob listened, his heart sank. You have bereaved me of my children, he lamented. Joseph is no more, and now you would take away Benjamin. If harm should befall him, it would bring me to the grave in sorrow. His love for Benjamin adorned his words, yet the words of his sons echoed testimony against their past. But as days wore on, the famine pressed heavily upon them. The storehouses grew bare, the earth groaned in silence, and Jacob's family was consumed with hunger. At last, he surrendered to the will of necessity. Go again, he commanded. Take your brother with you. For we cannot afford to perish in this land. Perhaps the man of Egypt will show us mercy. Before they departed, Judah spoke boldly. I will be surety for Benjamin. Give him into my charge, and if I do not bring him back to you, I shall bear the blame forever. Jacob's heart found a flicker of hope in his eldest son's promise, yet doubt clung to him. Upon their return to Egypt, Joseph beheld them approaching from afar. When he saw Benjamin, his heart swelled with an inexpressible longing. He ordered a feast to be prepared, and as they sat at the table, they marveled that they were treated as honored guests. Yet Joseph, still masked by his royal exterior, sought to reveal his true intentions through an act of sudden fear. "What is this in the mouth of your bag?" he demanded, causing their hearts to sink once more. The brothers pleaded for their lives, insisting their innocence. Yet little did they know the great tapestry of divine purpose unfolding behind the veil of these events. Joseph, amidst the turmoil of his own spirit, felt the pull of forgiveness flooding over him, transforming his inward conflict into a resolution. For the covenant promises of God wove closely through each revelation. Their trials were not final, but the very beginning of God's great plan to bring forth a nation. In the depths of their questions, Joseph pondered, could it be that God intends to bring forth not only physical sustenance, but spiritual renewal? Thus, as their hearts brimmed with turmoil, the echoes of God's sovereign plan began to resonate. A destiny greater than their understanding, poised upon the brink of revelation. What divine transformation awaited this fractured family? What reconciliation would emerge from the depths of their suffering? Only time, in the hands of the Almighty, would disclose the marvelous workings of His grace, destined to change the course of their lives forever. As the feast concluded, and the shadows elongated upon the land, Joseph's heart was burdened with the weight of unspoken truths. He gazed upon his brothers, and for a moment, memories of joy mingled with deep sorrow flooded his mind. What would it take to reveal to them the depths of his love, the longing for reconciliation? In that sacred moment, Joseph devised a plan that would unveil their hearts, for he understood that only through a trial could their transformation be complete. He commanded his steward, "Fill their sacks with food as before, and return each man's silver into his sack. Yet this time place my silver cup in the sack of the youngest." The steward obeyed, and as the dawn broke, the brothers set forth unaware of the storm that loomed upon their horizon. They journeyed with thankful hearts, their bellies filled with grain. But their peace was short-lived. As they traveled a day's journey from the city, Joseph sent forth his men. "Go after those men," he charged, "and when thou findest them, say unto them, Wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth? Ye have done evil in so doing." Upon hearing the accusation, the brothers were taken aback and vehemently proclaimed their innocence. "With whomsoever of thy servants it be found, let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen." Yet the steward's search revealed the cherished cup concealed within Benjamin's sack, and with it the storm of despair broke as thunder upon their hearts. They returned to the city, their hearts heavy and troubled. Upon entering Joseph's presence, they fell before him, trembling. "What shall thy servant say?" Judah cried. "We are all our Lord's servants, and as for Benjamin, let him plead for mercy." "Far be it from me," Joseph declared, restraining his voice, "that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And the rest of you go in peace to your father." Fear gripped their hearts anew. How was it that God had led them again into peril? Was it judgment or mercy disguised as a trial? Judah stepped forward, bearing the weight of their father's grief. "O my Lord, let thy servant speak a word in my Lord's ear, and let not thy anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh." And so Judah unveiled the story of their father's love for Benjamin, and how his heart would perish should he return without the boy. His words cut through the silence, carrying the weight of affection and familial bond. Joseph's heart, hidden behind the veil of royal authority, swelled with compassion. In that moment he saw not just the faces of his brothers, but the reflection of a family yearning for redemption. He could contain himself no longer. With a voice quivering like a reed, he commanded, "Cause every man to go out from me." The room fell silent, and in the solitude Joseph revealed himself to his brothers. "I am Joseph," he wept. "Doth my father yet live?" The brothers stood in disbelief, awash with sorrow and joy. Forgiveness, long awaited and desperately needed, hung in the air like a fragrant altar offering. Yet even in their reunion, Joseph, in wisdom, understood the greater purpose at hand. "So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. For he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. As the revelation dawned upon them, a new understanding unfurled. God's sovereign hand had orchestrated each event for a purpose beyond their comprehension. In their pain, redemption was birthed, and through their trials, a family was restored. But what lay ahead for Israel's lineage? God's grand design shimmered in the distance, whispering of nations, deliverance, and the fulfillment of promises yet to come. How would this reunion inspire the next chapter in their journey, rooted in divine providence? For the sovereign plan of the Almighty was only beginning to unfold. And it came to pass, as Joseph stood among his brothers, their hearts trembling in the presence of grace intertwined with justice, a sacred moment erupted between them. The weight of history washed over their souls, old wounds laid bare under the light of forgiveness. For there, bound by blood and guilt, the power of divine redemption flowed through the very air they breathed. Joseph, gathering his strength, spoke once more with a voice as steady as the Nile. Fear not, for though you meant it for evil, God meant it for good, to save many alive. This proclamation echoed like thunder, reverberating deep within the hearts of those men who had once betrayed him. Here stood the architect of their suffering, now transformed into the instrument of God's provision, his words sealing the cracks of despair with the mortar of redemption. With tears cascading down his cheeks, Joseph beckoned his brothers close, a cascade of emotions flooding upon them like a river. I am Joseph, your brother. I have not forgotten you, nor has heaven turned its gaze away from our lineage. Bring our father here to me. He must see the abundance which the Lord has provided through the trials he has allowed us to endure. Jacob, distant yet ever watchful, received the news with mingled disbelief and joy. Joseph lives, he cried, awe mingling with fear. I shall behold him before I perish. And so he arose, driven upon the wings of hope toward Egypt, a sojourner seeking reunion. The caravan swelled with emotion, and around the fire at sunset, the stories of their trials turned into a tapestry of testimony reflecting God's merciful hand. Upon arriving, Jacob was met by the sight of Joseph, the son he believed dead, now anointed with the essence of authority and wisdom, ready to embrace him. The tears flowed freely as an unstoppable torrent, intertwining the past and present in a sacred fabric of grace. A family reunited, the love of a father igniting the dimmest corners of their sore hearts. Joseph, Jacob uttered with voice thickened by emotion, Behold, I see the Lord's hand upon you. You have prospered, and now we shall dwell together. As the weeks passed, Israel's family settled in Egypt, God's promise to Abraham and Isaac resonating through time. Each night under the vastness of the starlit sky, stories of old were narrated. Jacob shared the faithfulness of God, like a compass, guiding them through generations, touching hearts, echoing truths. In this land they multiplied and prospered. Their abundance became the tales of strangers and kin alike. Lessons were learned from their past. The estrangement, the jealousy, and the sin all had shaped their identities. Esau, the rugged brother who had tread his own path, carved a legacy as the father of nations, while Jacob's household became a conduit for the blessings of God. Yet even amid their flourishing, the shadows of Egypt loomed, and a new Pharaoh rose who knew not Joseph. The seeds of discord began to sprout, jeopardizing the peace of their sanctuary. The children of Israel were bound by chains of bondage, yet God was stirring. A divine plan was unfolding beneath the surface of despair, where his promise would shine forth anew. Fear not, O Israel, for I shall make of you a great nation. The Lord spoke to Jacob in yet another dream, the promise resounding like a clarion call. Through trials and tribulations you shall be forged for glory. And so their story entered a season of fulfillment, and yet deeper testing lay ahead. Nations would rise and fall, the peoples would clash, and through them the plan of God would illuminate the path to deliverance. The hearts of Israel would one day yearn for freedom, an exodus from the limits placed upon them. They would call out in the night, and in response, redemption would come. A child destined to lead them home would arise, Moses, a figure wrought from the fabric of their necessary suffering. Thus the narrative of Esau, Jacob, and Joseph breathed life into the promise that would span generations, a revelation of God's love and purpose unfolding throughout history. From rejection to redemption, a story written by the hand of the Almighty, binding brothers and nations in an eternal covenant of grace. And so it is in our lives today. The tapestry continues to be woven. No matter the struggles or the pain, God's promises stand firm, beckoning us to trust in His ways, for they are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are ever towards our good. As we reflect upon their journey, let us be inspired to walk in faith, letting go of bitterness and embracing the profound truth that God can turn our trials into triumphs, weaving our individual stories into the grand narrative of His eternal purpose. Beloved friend, if you have felt the weight of your own story, remember, God can redeem every facet of your life. Now, as we conclude this powerful journey through the life of Esau, Jacob, and Joseph, I invite you to stay connected to more transformative biblical stories. Please subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss what God has in store for you next. Leave a like now, helping us spread God's word through the algorithm so that many may encounter His truth. Comment below your reflections on how this biblical saga has shaped your faith. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear about God's unwavering faithfulness. Remember, this is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Only true believers understand the importance of uplifting others and sharing His glorious narratives to transform lives for Christ.